All right, hopefully this works well. And now I'd like to begin our SDGs team presentation session with all the other audiences in our YouTube channel. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and fellow participants, welcome to the exciting session of the SDGs team presentation, where our talented young minds will showcase their extensive research, innovative ideas, and action plans to address pressing global challenges. Today, we have the privilege of witnessing the culmination of 3 days of hard work, collaboration, and dedication from our participating teams. Each team has delved deep into their chosen SDG and explored the complexities surrounding it. They have critically examined the root causes, identified potential solutions, and devised action plans to create meaningful impact. The presentations will cover a wide range of topics addressing diverse aspects of the Sustainable Development Goals. We are delighted to inform you that this session will be live streamed on our official Hope to the Future Association YouTube channel, allowing us to reach a wider audience and share these brilliant ideas with the world. By sharing their presentations on a global platform, our participants are demonstrating their commitment to creating a positive change beyond the confines of this conference. Throughout their presentations, our teams will provide valuable insights, propose creative solutions, and highlight the power of youth engagement in shaping a better future. We encourage all viewers to actively engage with the presentations, ask questions, and share their thoughts in their comments section. Let us foster a spirit of collaboration and dialogue, embracing the diversity of perspectives and fostering an inclusive exchange of ideas. Thank you, and let us embrace this incredible opportunity to learn from the remarkable contributions of our young change makers. So, as randomly picked, I would like Team 3 to begin their presentations by sharing their own screen.
Okay, hello everyone. We are Team 3, and today we're going to talk about SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, and fast fashion. First of all, the table of contents. First, Paul is going to introduce our team members, and Flora will explain what fast fashion is. Then I'll explain the relation between fast fashion and SDG 12, followed by a fast fashion case study in Zara and greenwashing by Flora. Next, Kyle will talk about the potential solutions for fast fashion. And lastly, I'll wrap up our presentation with what we've learned.
And as you can see, these are my lovely teammates who've worked unremittingly to put together this wonderful presentation. So going down the list, we have James Benedict Tan, Gianna Aaron Kamaya, and Thao Phan Tan, who are creators. The credit for letting us have this wonderful PowerPoint absolutely goes to all three of them. Then we have Yuyup Chung, Suyeon Kwan, and myself, Hisang Ju, as speakers. We will be the ones delivering the presentation orally. And before we dive deeply into our topic today, I have a question for all of you guys. So who is wearing Uniqlo, Zara, or H&M right now? Could you please raise your hand? Okay, I think I see a lot of hands. Well, everyone who is raising their hands right now, unfortunately, you are guilty. You are accused of fast fashion.
Then, what exactly is fast fashion? Fast fashion is inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends, according to the definition from Oxford Languages. In other words, mass produced clothes which are created, distributed, and disposed of at a rapid rate. The fast fashion industry first emerged during the Industrial Revolution due to the impact of mass production. The reason why fast fashion is vibrant in the present society is because of the impact of the fast-turning trends, especially impacted because of the emerging application called TikTok, which you all might have heard about or most likely are already enjoying. And if you do, you will see that the trends change rapidly. This impacted the fashion industry as well. The consumers like us were demanding for trendy clothes. And since the trends change every single day, the fast fashion industry was able to catch up with the rapid change of interest from the consumers. However, if there are lights, there will always be shadows. In spite of how the fast fashion industry fulfills our wants as customers, at the same time, it is destroying our planet Earth. In Africa, specifically in Ghana's capital, the city is faced with 2 times more than 2,000 metric tons of waste every 24 hours, which is twice as much as it could hold. The overflows are burnt, and sometimes the fire not put off for days. And for one such incident, it wasn't off for 11 months. And this is the sad reality caused by the fast fashion industry, the destruction of the environment and threatening the well-being of the citizens of African countries. It is a dirty secret behind the world's fashion addiction. Many of the clothes we donate to charity end up dumped in landfill, creating an environmental catastrophe on the other side of the world. This is a quote by Linton Bessar in Ghana, and it shows the catastrophic destruction of the people's daily lives caused by the fast fashion industry. Landfills that seem to never be gone, fires, while on the other side of the planet, the people are purchasing 60% more clothing than 15 years ago, but only keeping them for half as long.
Then why is SDG 12 related to fast fashion? According to Springwise, the clothes we wear have an enormous impact on the planet. The entire fashion supply chain is estimated to contribute 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions, and fashion is the second most water-intensive industry on Earth, consuming roughly 79 billion cubic meters of water per year. Additionally, fashion uses 98 million metric tons of non-renewable resources each year, and only 12% of the material used in clothing is currently recycled. Meanwhile, SDG 12's main objective is to ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns worldwide. SDG 12 recognized the urgent need to decouple economic risk from resource use, promoting more efficient and responsible use of natural resources, reducing waste generation, and fostering sustainable lifestyles. In this aspect, we know that fast fashion is consuming huge amounts of resources while causing a lot of climate-related problems. And since SDG 12 is about sustainable consumption and production patterns worldwide, we need to stop following fast fashion to achieve SDG 12.
Now, who doesn't know Zara here? Probably nobody. And yes, you guessed it right. Zara is a fast fashion company that was created in 1975 Spain. Now, Zara is creating 12,000 new designs and manufactures more than 450 million clothings every day. Just like Zara, H&M and Uniqlo, which I mentioned already, are representing spa brands who lead fast fashion trends. But for now, let's look into Zara more specifically. Zara, despite being famous for their so-called no plastic bag policies, are a main contributor of carbon footprint and mass environmental destruction caused by the manufacturing process of their clothes. The secret behind their relatively cheap clothing and positive brand image was based upon greenwashing, an action in which of producing false vague or misleading statements about the environmental benefits of a product or their services. And for Zara's case, making them look as if they actually take care about the environment. The fast fashion industry holds accountable for 1/3 of the microplastics found in the ocean, while also producing 20% of global water waste. Over 60% of the fabric fibers we use are now synthetic, derived from fossil fuels, meaning that if the clothing ends up in landfill, which most of them do, it will not decay, and the only ways to get rid of them will be to burn them. Then, are there any ways we can solve this problem? Well, for our potential solutions, Carl will explain in detail.
Yeah, thank you, Flora. So then, how can we solve these problems caused by fast fashion industry? With Flora and Henry's informative explanations, now we kind of see how negatively impactful and significant fast fashion could be on the environment. It is hurting animals, harming ecosystems, and resulting in extreme climate changes. Therefore, solutions to put fast fashion to an end are more urgent than ever. Here, our group is proposing potential solutions to resolve the issue in 4 different aspects. And to better remember these solutions, just keep SIPS in your mind, in your heart. It stands for companies, industries, policy, and society. The first potential solution is through the perspective of companies. Textile industries have no doubt been one of the chief culprits for fast fashion. But fortunately, companies could still make up for what they have done. Our team suggests companies to practice upcycling. Upcycled fashion involves turning old garments and textiles into new clothing or products of better quality and environmental value. It is an innovative and creative way for fashion brands to reduce the negative environmental impact caused by the fashion industry. An example of an upcycling brand is Patagonia. To help build a circular clothing system, they launched a take-back program, repurposing your old Patagonia tees into new ones. Overall, the practice of upcycling will be more eco-friendly, resource-deserving, and affordable. Our second potential solution is to limit fast fashion through regulations and policies. These regulations will supervise and control the amount of clothing that factories could produce. For instance, the US has initiated the Fabric Act. It aims to make sure that fashion companies abide by supply chain transparency, safe labor conditions, and fair wages, enabling stakeholders to hold fast fashion companies accountable for malpractices. Thus, through regulations, the phenomenon of overproduction will be reduced. The issue of fast fashion will also be effectively resolved. Our third potential solution involves pop stars and idols to solve fast fashion on the societal level. Who here loves a celebrity? Well, I do, and I believe a lot of us do. Gen Z these days is influenced significantly by idols, social media, and etc. Let's take a look at a famous example. BTS. We all know them. They are idols in South Korea, and they have attended the UN General Assembly and gave a speech. By this example, we can tell that spreading advocacies from pop culture to civilian is possible. Even though stars and celebrities have unintentionally affected people to participate in the fast fashion trend, they can still voluntarily correct the situation and bring up a new positive circulation of fashion. Not only K-pop stars, but TikTokers. They will also greatly contribute to limiting fast fashion using their popularity. Thus, with the influence of idols, fast fashion will be greatly reduced. Last but not least, the potential solution and an action plan for our group to eliminate fast fashion is thrifting. So what is thrifting? It is to shop for or buy used goods, especially at a store that specializes in secondhand merchandise. Thrifting has significantly risen due to online influencers. Popular social media accounts like Best Dressed, which showcase thrift shopping finds and DIYs, have conversely increased the popularity of buying secondhand in order to maintain a trendy image on a tight budget. Furthermore, according to the State of Fashion Report 2019, Gen Z and Gen Y are proven to care for climate change more. So thrifting became even more popular these days. And so what are the real benefits of thrifting? Thrifting makes clothes more affordable as thrifting resells textile products at a cheaper price. And who doesn't love to save money, right? However, thrifting does so much more than just allowing you to save money. It's a great way to shop both sustainably and ethically. Well, let's take a look at an example of how students thrifted. Grace Miracle, a student at Southern University, says that she got into thrifting freshman year because her roommate would go a lot. And she thought it was really, really cool. She says, where I grew up, they didn't have super good thrift stores. But when I came to school here, they had a lot better stores and items to choose from. Knowing that I'm not sure of what I'm going to find excites me. There's so much out there, it's like a big treasure box. And through this personal experience of a student, we could see that thrifting could actually be absolutely exciting and full of surprises. But that's not it. Thrifting has so many more advantages. A really significant one is that, ironically, you could actually find better quality clothes in thrift shops than in popular brand stores like Nike or Adidas. Well, you see, in 1950s, people were buying fewer clothes, but taking a lot better care of them. So that is why vintages are so resilient. Thrifting also produces less waste and is excellent at saving our planet, Earth. The reason is that thrifting allows you to give these donated clothes a second chance before they hit the landfills. It may not be as convenient as typing in a clothing article you're looking for to buy online. Instead, however, you will be walking away with a way more unique piece for a fraction of the price, as well as knowing that you saved one less item ending up in a landfill. Finally, thrifting is definitely a more ethical option of purchasing clothes. Like Flora had mentioned before in our presentation, brands like Zara are such hypocrites. They say that they want to keep the environment green, but they are the ones encouraging fast fashion. How evil and abominable, right? Luckily, we do have our hero or a protagonist called thrifting. By thrifting, you are no longer supporting these companies directly. Even if you are to thrift an item that originally came from a fast shipping company, your money will not be supporting that company at all. How wonderful. So we call upon all of your help. Stop fast fashion and let's all start thrifting. What are you waiting for? Get your resilient, ethical, and unique thrifted clothing now.
In this presentation, we talked about fast fashion. Fast fashion is inexpensive clothing produced rapidly by mass market retailers in response to the latest trends, and this is currently making a lot of greenhouse gas emissions and is using a lot of resources. Therefore, this must be stopped to achieve SDG 12, which is responsible consumption and production. We also learned about the case of Zara, which makes a tremendous amount of clothes and waste, but uses greenwashing to advertise their company. Lastly, we talked about the potential solution to solve this problem, which is consisted of 4 different categories depending on who is the actor. For things that company can do is urging them to upcycle, while the government must make policies to restrict factories. And it'll be helpful for stars to spread advocacy as well. The last potential solution of our team and our action plan for fast fashion was what individuals like us can do, which is upcycling and thrifting. After this presentation, we hope that everyone listening to our words will take individual action to stop fast fashion so that we can achieve our sustainable development goals. Until now, we were Team 3, and thank you for listening.
Right. Thank you, Team 3, for showing diverse perspectives and proposing solutions from various levels of stakeholders, including individuals joining the secondhand market as thrifting. So the next speaker will be Team 1, covering SDG 2, Zero Hunger and Honeybees.
Okay. Good evening, fellow students, staffs, and all of those who gathered here. Welcome to our Team 1 presentation, focusing on the topic SDG 2, Zero Hunger and Honeybees. I'm Yan Lee, who will start up the presentation. So before going into details, let's go over the outline for today's presentation. At the beginning, we'll be introducing the SDG 2. After that, we'll look into the linkage between biodiversity and honeybees. Then we'll go over the importance of honeybees in agriculture and how it contributes to SDG 2, followed by several factors on honeybees management, as well as some real case scenarios on how bees are vanishing. Potential solutions for it is the next part. Lastly, we'll present how to fulfill SDG 2, Zero Hunger, by introducing some of the action plan and some inspirational quotes. So, SDG 2 is a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal focused on zero hunger that aims to end hunger, achieve food security, improve nutrition, and promote sustainable agriculture. SDG 2 also recognizes the following targets, such as access to safe, nutritious, and sufficient food, ending all forms of malnutrition, sustainable food production, resilient agricultural practices, and lastly, maintaining the genetic diversity in food production. Those aims and targets are all fundamental human rights and crucial steps toward eradicating poverty as well as achieving sustainable development by 2030.
So moving on, actually honeybees and biodiversity, they actually are linked together. So to start, a quick definition of biodiversity it means that all the different kinds of life. It includes the variety of animals, plants, fungi, and even microorganisms like bacteria that make up our natural world. So biodiversity is essential for the processes that support all lives on Earth, including us humans. Preserving biodiversity is the most important factor in maintaining ecosystem. Without a wide range of biodiversity, we cannot have the healthy ecosystem that means we won't have the air we breathe in every day and the food that we consume. Following up, honeybees, they contribute to maintaining biodiversity by pollinating a wide range of flowering plants. They provide valuable ecosystem services beyond pollination. So beside pollination, they also produce honey, beeswax, propolis, and royal jelly, which have both economic and medicinal significance. In other words, bees provide the most fundamental foundation for biodiversity conservation. Further studies by and by IPBES is that Western honeybees are the most widespread managed pollinator. They have over 80 million hives and produce annually an estimated of 1.6 million tons of honey. So honeybees are actually really important and plays a major role in agriculture. This is because they provide the pollination service. So a quick definition of pollination, it is the process of transferring pollen from the male part of flowers to the female part. So this process is essential for reproduction of plants, fruits, and vegetable. And actually, according to United Nations statistics, actually 1/3 of the world's food production, they depended on bees. And these are estimated to have provided billions of dollars worth of pollination services to farmers worldwide. And while bees play like a major role in agriculture, they also play a major role in completing SDG number 2, which is zero hunger. The reason for this is that bees, they help to increase the crop yields. So bees, they will use the pollination services, and from this, they ensure that crops will produce more fruits and seeds, and from then, they will increase food available for people, which was a result in reducing hunger and malnutrition.
But sadly, the population of bee decreases significantly over time, and scientists find out factors that can blame on honeybee vanishment. There are various factors affecting bee vanishment due to humanity's impact on the environment that leads to the destruction of bee habitats and therefore destroy their home and places for them to reproduce and live. And of course, the factors that contribute to habitat loss are pollution and climate change, which not only destroy their habitat, but also their survival chances in nature. And another thing that is the use of pesticide. Pesticide is a dangerous chemical that tends to harm living animal near plants, and bees are not the exception of this chemical. And lastly is poor nutrition. As we all know, changing habitats and climate change can destroy bee food sources. And when the food sources get destroyed, it leads to poor nutrition and therefore affecting the bee health. Our group found 2 cases of vanishing honeybee in the United States in 2 different years to examine. So the first case that we found was in June 2014. A pest control company sprayed a powerful insecticide to kill some insects around the region, but they accidentally forgot to remove the bees and accidentally caused the death of 50,000 bumblebee. And another case in the US in the year of 2021 to 2022 examined that the entire country lost about 39% of bee from summer, April the 1st of 2021 to October the 1st of 2021. We lost about 23.8 bees population. And during winter, October the 1st to April 2022, reported says that there's been 24.2% of bee population loss. The table below in the Google slide shows the changes of population and the loss and the percentage loss that the United States has caused the bees. And the cost for the vanishing of honeybees can be due to various factors. The main one for June 2014 is the use of pesticide, but for the entire country, for the entire year, there can be various ones, such as climate change, pollution, humans' impact, like I've talked before. And in order to save the situation, solutions to protect honeybee must be established and taken into action by the people. We found out 5 solutions
The first is reduce the use of pesticides. We know that pesticides are major threats to honeybee since they can kill the bees directly or weaken them, making them more susceptible to diseases. And next is planting bee-friendly flowers in our garden. By doing this, we can provide the bees with safe haven and more sources of food, making them habitat more diverse. And next is support sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture practices such as crop rotation and cover coping can help to reduce the pesticide use and provide bee with more diverse resources. So what is crop rotation? Crop rotation is the practice of planting different crops subsequently on the same plot of land to improve soil health, optimize nutrients of the soil, and combat pests and weed pressure. Another thing is cover cropping, is crop grown to cover the soil and may be incorporated into the soil later for enrichment. So these are very effective alternatives aside from pesticide that can use to remove insects that destroy plant without harming the bees. Another thing that's similar is create bee-friendly habitat, such as meadow and hedgerows, by actively growing plants around where we live. And the most important one is to educate the public about the importance of bee, especially young children. Many people are not aware about the importance of bee, and they may not realize that the threats that the bees face. So by educating the public about the importance of bee, we can help raise awareness of the issues and encourage people to take actions to protect the bees. So talking about sustainable agriculture and making bee-friendly habitat, our group find two specific solutions that can be taken into account by many countries. So we suggest that a practical and useful way to protect the bees are planting wildflowers around region with solar sparks and solar panels, since these regions tend to have grass type that's or similar to meadow, which benefits the bee living condition and bees population, because this is available and making them because having these locations make the reproductions of bee more available, and so these locations should be widely spread and included. Another thing is urban beekeeping hives in towns and city instead of restricting the hive in forest region. We often notice that insects like bee tends to have very restricting place, and those places are usually forests or in wild nature. And due to climate change and pollution, those places has been terribly destroyed, and since so the habitat decreases. So in order to save the situation, humanity should open beehives, should actively plant inside urban towns and develop cities. Since first of all, humanity, we took a lot of the space for that. So we need to make up for nature by actively planting beekeeping and balancing out the habitat that the bee already lost. And urban beekeeping is already practiced in countries like France, Germany, and Japan, and they have the advantage of allowing bees to thrive in an urban environment that use fewer pesticides than in the wild, which is a very good thing.
So to move on, the goal of SDG 2 is multifaceted. It's not only focused on eliminating hunger, but also emphasizes the importance of promoting sustainable agricultural practices. This involves improving the livelihoods and capacities of small-scale farmers, allowing equal access to land, technology, and markets, as well as ensuring investments to further improve agricultural productivity. However, those aims are quite impossible for us youth to take part. In light of these, we want to introduce several action plans for youth to have a chance to contribute in sustainable development. First, perform a youth lead activity. It is a call for youth to lead the way in making sustainable food choices and understanding the food systems. By being in a group and working on the same topic, we can share ideas and exchange our knowledges. We believe that we must amplify efforts collectively and individually to restore the planet and protect life while also integrating biodiversity in the systems. Another action that we could possibly take is to launch the open campaign or a challenge, both to stay informed and to spread out the ongoing problems to the public. The challenge we propose is Zero Food Waste Challenge. This is a challenge which we encourage people around the world to take a photo that proves their zero food waste and let them share it on the social media such as Facebook or Instagram. In this way, we can easily engage the public to take actions and participate in achieving SDGs. Additionally, with some funny hashtags that can represent the challenge, it may further motivate people to join the challenge. Last but not least, reaching out to experts. By listening the presentations and collaborating with the experts who has much wide knowledge about sustainable development, youth can gain more insights on SDGs. IPBES Field Trip Program can be the one. It is the program which the youth around the world have a chance to visit IPBES and acquire diverse knowledges. We chose IPBES because they have various experts who can impart a lot of knowledge about biodiversity, ecosystem, and bee population conservation. We also believe that IPBES is a great vehicle to teach students about the SDGs as it is a part of UN organization. So to achieve all of these, the mainstream leadership role of youth has been more important now than ever. Together with the goals and set out here to act out, we can end hunger by 2030. Before we end our presentation, we would like to share two people as well as their inspirational quotes. Sandrine is a young woman from Brazil who served as a Latin America regional youth focal point at a major group for children and youth and support the UN Food System Summit. And this is what she said. Achieving the 2030 agenda, especially SDG 2, requires profound cohesion between spheres of governance in order to increase food supply while facing the impacts of climate change and safeguarding biodiversity. To continue, Jolie is a film star and a female beekeeper who embraces bee and were named godmother for Women's for Bees, a program launched by UNESCO. In the interview, she mentioned that, it seems like I'm now working on bees, but really, to me, the bee and the pollination and the respect for the environment, it's all interconnected to women's livelihoods and to displacement from climate change. To summarize, this quote highlights the interconnection between sustainable agriculture, climate change, and biodiversity. Their perspective underscores the importance of holistic approaches that consider the complex relationships between food systems, ecosystems, and climate resilience. By acknowledging these connections and promoting collaborative efforts, we can work towards a more sustainable future that ensures food security. We can protect biodiversity in the face of climate change. It's time for us to care more about bee conservation and work to achieve the goal of SDG 2 to create a more sustainable and equitable world for generations to come. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Team One, for highlighting the importance of ease in agriculture and its solutions, plans to empower local and urban agricultural households, and their passion to connect with relevant experts with peers. Now it's time for us to welcome Team 4, covering SDG 16 and refugees.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us on this presentation. We are Team 같이, 공유, sama-sama, 이치, which all means together in English. And our topic for this presentation is refugees and SDG 16, peace, justice, and strong institutions. We are mainly going to discuss about the journey of immigrants and refugees seeking safety and stability in the face of war and climate change. Table of contents. The first part of our presentation will be about students' information. Then we'll introduce our topic about refugees. Afterward, we'll explain SDG 16 and migrant, and then SDG 13 and migrant. Last but not least, the solutions and action plans for these problems, and additionally, the reference page of our research. This is the list of our team members. We have 3 speakers, Sungin Moon, Dayun Kang, Churhan Lin, and we had other 3 members as creator, which are Yeun Kim, Marie Isabel Farrell, Kitty Dewan. And now Clement will take the lead to briefly introduce our topic.
Thank you, Olivia. Before starting the relations of refugees and SDGs, I will talk about why are migrants important. As the Russian-Ukraine war continues, more and more refugees are separated around the world. The United Nations estimates there are over 30 million refugees in the world. These places help people who have fled across a border to escape conflicts, disasters, or persecution. On top of this, UNHCR, United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, estimates there are over 15 million internally displaced people globally. But why should we care about them? And what else are their impacts on the whole global situation? Let us begin. We will start with humanitarian significance. I think most importantly, accepting them protects the most precious right of all, the right to live. Turning our backs to the refugees in many cases could be fatal for them. Thus, accepting refugees, providing the most basic protection is, in many cases, life-saving. Accepting refugees is also a win for the receiving country and communities that host them. While the host country shelters and protects the refugees, they give them the right to work, will be able to become productive members of society, and will be able to make the host country more welfare enhanced. Next is the economic side of significance. Because when people migrate, the economy is also affected even by just a little change. It's been shown that when able to, refugees can provide a significant economic boost to countries that host them. Refugees are often young, eager to learn, dynamic, and bring a very wealth and cultural experiences that can help them excel economically when given the chance. Also, economic migration is related to poor labor standards, high unemployment, and the overall health of a country's economy. Poor factors include higher wages, better employment opportunities, a higher standard of living, and educational opportunities. If economic conditions are not favorable and appear to be at risk of declining further, a great number of people will probably migrate to countries with a better outlook. After the economic impact, there is also the social impact. Persecution causes people to become refugees because of one's ethnicity, religion, race, politics, or culture can push people to leave their country. A major factor is war, which my members will talk about later more. and also conflict, government persecution, or there being a significant risk of them. Those fleeing armed conflict, human rights violations, or persecution are more likely to be humanitarian refugees. This will affect where they settle, as some countries have more liberal approaches to humanitarian migrants than others. In the first instance, these people are likely to move to the nearest country with safe than that accepts asylum seekers. Along with the persecution, refugees also bring a lot of diverse cultural backgrounds and experiences to host communities. We all know refugees can come from anywhere. So when refugees come, it also clashes with the original culture, then becoming a new culture or a remix and combine. Finally, we also need to think of a way to deal with the refugees. Although they are bringing benefits, there are still people that lost their home or can't return back. So a huge policy is to help and support these migrants to a better life. It is a win for the refugees for obvious reasons. The earlier a state commits to protecting refugees, the earlier they can move forward with their lives without uncertainty blocking the way. Most importantly, accepting them protects the most precious rights of all, the right to live, which I had mentioned earlier. The EU has been encouraging legal migration to address labor shortages, fill skill gaps, and boost economic growth, including the EU Blue Card for non-EU citizens to work and live, the single permit, which combines work and residency, and EU long-term resident status also allows people from outside the EU to stay and to work freely.
People migrate for many reasons. The main reason I will talk about is people migrating in order to be safe or to get away from the wars. This is also familiar to the SDG 16, which stands for peace, justice, and strong institutions. Wars are something that no one wants, and it's very hard for people to survive during the war. So they will choose to migrate in order to get justice. I'm pretty sure you know all about the Ukraine and Russian war. Many people died and got hurt because of that. Ukraine has 7 million displaced people, and that includes little children too. But most of the displaced people are rejected in Pakistan, Syria, etc. So that means there won't be many places for them to stay safely. Because of this, people need to migrate to another place to have a safe life. I want to share one short video of refugees affected by Ukraine war. Ukraine war creates largest refugee crisis.
It's been a month of lives ripped up, a generation driven out, certainty torn apart. A month that we've been here, seeing the heartbreak of the sick forced to flee, but compassion too of hearts and homes opened, of the democratic world standing up to the aggressor. 4 weeks on, the only change is warmer weather. The arrivals keep coming, seeking safety from a war some don't understand, welcomed where Poland can put them. This, a school, a smile for the kids at the ready. Inside, volunteers bring comfort after an exhausting journey. Yulia Kirienko and her sons fled Kiev, her husband staying to fight.
Children were killed and teenage girls were raped. We had to leave. They were shooting at the cars as we tried to escape. We prayed as we drove. It's good here, but we want to go home. I just want this to end.
The trauma on the youngest could take years to show and last a lifetime. Olga Oleshko's little ones already feel it.
They were asking why helicopters were flying, why there were sirens, why people were dying. I had to explain it in a way that didn't hurt them.
At the start of the invasion, we watched as panic prompted the immediate first rush to escape. But these are the people who didn't want to leave, thinking they could stick it out, that the bombs might stop. But they didn't stop, and more than 3.5 million refugees later, there's a growing feeling of the long term about this, with all the challenges that will entail. Destination, Warsaw, whose population is up by almost a fifth. New arrivals given ID numbers and school places. They have a journey to safety, but their country still has no passage to peace.
As you can see from the video, war not only claims lives, but also robs people of their livelihoods. The Ukraine war has resulted in numerous individuals losing their homes and being replaced displaced due to safety concerns, so they had to leave their home to survive. However, many people are sad and homesick. This is a grave issue directly related to SDG 16, which focuses on peace. Many children are dying because for many reasons. For example, possibilities of catching disease will increase since there are many people in one refugee. Migrants could also face many challenges during migration, and the biggest and most common challenges are cultural differences and different languages. It is hard for them because they can't talk or live in a country where no one understands them. Also, cultural differences are a challenge for migrants too. It would be hard for them to survive in a new culture and new climate. In short, migrant encompasses a multitude of reasons and one of the fundamental aspirations that drive individuals to relocate the pursuit of peace and justice. In a world where conflicts can erupt at any time and at any corner of the globe, those seeking safety and security often choose the path of migration as a means to escape the ravages of war and instability. The ability to forge a future free from the perils of violence and oppression becomes a paramount concern of individuals and families alike. However, they could also face many challenges during those migrations, as I mentioned. So we should support them to have a better life without many difficulties. By championing the cause of migrants and creating an environment that nurtures their potential, we take a significant stride towards building a future characterized by harmony, understanding, and global solidarity.
Today, I will explain an issue of the intersection of Sustainable Development Goal 13 and the challenges faced by migrants, particularly climate migrants and refugees. SDG 13, also known as climate action, urges us to take urgent steps to combat climate change and its impacts. However, it is crucial to recognize that climate change is not just an environmental issue. It is also a humanitarian crisis that affects the lives of millions of people, especially those who are forced to migrate due to its consequences. Rising sea levels, extreme weather events, and unpredictable shifts in climate patterns have already begun to reshape the map of our planet, rendering certain areas uninhabitable and forcing people to abandon their homes of safety and security. According to UNHCR's estimations, 117.2 million people will be forcibly displaced or stateless in 2023 worldwide. There are lots of unfair refugees moving to other countries every year. The one reason that I'm going to talk about is the environmental effect. This shows that this problem is also connected to SDG 13, climate action. When we think about environmental effects, there will be climate change, global warming, and others. Did you know that these natural disasters can also make lots of refugees? Climate refugees are the people who must leave their hometown because of the danger of climate change and global warming. Climate change happens because of natural events such as volcanic eruptions, which are caused by some natural causes, and also humans' actions. We cannot forget our other cause, which is global warming. This natural disaster, global warming, is caused by humans burning fossil fuels and humans making deforestations. So, the basic solution for global warming can be making a greenhouse. Many developing countries can suffer from using their own money and workers to build greenhouses. Therefore, we can find some organizations that can support workers and money to build greenhouses in developing countries. For example, there is an organization called IRC, which is the International Rescue Committee. IRC is a global humanitarian aid, relief, and development non-governmental organization. This organization is currently supporting Afghanistan, which is a developing country for various problems inside the country. Another environmental problem that we have to focus on right now is a sea level rise. When sea level rises, changes in salinity alter seawater density, which can change major ocean currents that transport heat through the ocean driven by the currents, which stimulates more climate changes. As global temperatures continue to warm, additional sea level rise is inevitable. How much and by when depends mostly on the future rate of greenhouse gas emissions. But another source of uncertainty is whether big ice sheets in Antarctica and Greenland will melt in a steady, predictable way as the Earth gets warmer, or whether they will reach a tipping point and rapidly collapse. We cannot just wait until extreme climate change, global warming, and world extinction. We should do something to make a safer world. One solution that I thought of is to construct a new infrastructure. Construct new infrastructure, flood barriers, to protect critical infrastructure including levees, dikes, and seawalls, and so on. In conclusion, the intersection of Sustainable Development Goal 13 and the challenges faced by climate migrants and refugees highlights the urgent need for climate action. Climate change is not only an environmental issue, but a humanitarian crisis affecting millions of people worldwide, forcing them to migrate in search of safety. By recognizing the intersection between climate action and the challenges faced by migrants, particularly climate migrants and refugees, we can work towards a more sustainable and inclusive future. Perhaps we have been more accustomed to thinking of refugees in the context of conflict and war, and have overlooked the issue of climate-included displacement. However, it is crucial to recognize that addressing the challenges faced by climate refugees is essential for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. From protecting the environment to ensuring the well-being of refugees, our collective efforts are needed. It is imperative that we take immediate and concerted action to combat climate change, protect vulnerable populations, and create a world where the consequences of climate change do not force people to abandon their homes.
Some people may see refugees as burdens, but they are actually a great help to our society, so we must go help them. We can do many things to help them, either through social media or by assisting them get a job, find shelter, and many more. We can help the refugees to integrate to a new culture, informing other people about their hard journey and encouraging them to help refugees. But most of all is to inform other people to make a big impact. Since the more and more people will know their story and will be willing to help them. Other people might even make a campaign for refugees, which will draw more attention. To solve the problem of the refugees, it is very important for us to work together. Like Helen Keller said, alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. So let us stand together and reach out to refugees. Here are some ways on how we can have a big impact on refugees' lives. If you see refugees newly welcome in your community, the best thing we can do is to donate and help them get a job. We may donate things we don't use but are in good conditions. They need a fair chance. For example, in my elementary school, there are donations towards migrants and also refugees behind natural disasters. Aside from donations, we can still do something small but important to help the refugees. We are part of the power of education and speeches. When we stand out and show our hope for a better world, the world will also see it. And the attention and the awareness on the migrants will eventually raise. That is what we are wishing for, a world that collaborates to solve global issues. I believe we don't need to use a lot of time and money to raise awareness. To help is to help whether you are rich or poor. Because when you stand up and fight for justice, justice will also stand up on your side. Another impactful approach is producing short-form videos that shed light on the plight of refugees. These videos can be shared on social media platforms, reaching a wider audience. By sharing the stories and challenges faced by refugees, you can raise awareness and inspire others to support them. Student initiatives and short-form videos have the power to send a message of hope and solidarity to refugees. Through the active involvement and dedication for students, these initiatives can contribute to improving the lives of refugees and fostering global understanding and empathy. In conclusion, refugees have a very important role to play. That's why we should help them to get a job, a home, and have access to natural resources. Refugees are very important to society, but without peace, justice, and inclusion, it may be difficult to achieve an end to poverty, ensuring education and economic growth. So we should show them that we can help. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Team 4. And they have pointed out the significance of forced migrants affecting various fields such as economy and society as well. And they also showed creative approach linking environment to current refugee status and their dedications as students. So now it's time for us to welcome our final speech from Team 2, covering SDG 11 and urban development.
Good evening to my fellow students, staff, and all those others who are watching via the YouTube live stream. We are Team 2 to discuss SDG 11 and urban development. To go urban is to understand. I would like to introduce my wonderful teammates, me, Elena Mariel Camus, Irene Pei, Jahanara Maria Tigli, Judy Dam, Maria Kalia L. Del Rosario, and Tan Mai Nguyen. For the progression of this presentation, here is the table of contents. So we will be talking about the introduction to SDG 11 and urban development, green energy and urban development, the social implications of urban development, innovative solutions and action plans, and finally, our overall conclusion and final statement. Before we officially begin, let us watch this short video to better understand what is urban development.
We're urbanizing at well over 1 million people a week. That means that every 2 months, there's the equivalent of a New York metropolitan area being erected on this planet. 100 million, or Mexico City, 100 million.
The economy will double in the next 20 years, and the infrastructure needs for economic development are just enormous. You can't do really economic development without infrastructure.
People now know what other people have in other parts of the world, and everybody wants that, and governments need to rise to the challenge.
If you talk to a developing country, what they'll say is they need foreign investment. I mean, where's the investment going to come from?
Well, there's a lot of short-term liquidity in the market. Long-term capital is still very difficult to get to commit.
We've got to bring in new investors. They've got to see that infrastructure is a major part not only of their investment portfolio, but of developing the economy.
The whole point of having a city, the whole point of all that infrastructure is a way of bringing people together, create new things, and in particular create wealth.
Governments, I think, are beginning to understand that they have to put in place policy measures, guarantee systems. Nobody's got the answers yet, but there's a lot of thinking going on.
The most important thing is cooperation. World Economic Forum can facilitate cooperation, collaboration,
among government, the private sector, construction organizations, development organizations, companies like ourselves in the real estate sector who have an intellectual property in this area.
Looking at case studies of what has worked and what has been very successful, and then helping people become aware and sharing best practice and be an advocate of the necessary changes that need to take place.
Probably going to be technical solutions, and we're the folks that can provide technical solutions.
It's such an extraordinary.
Now that we have an idea of what is urban development, I would now like to call on Jahanara to now introduce us to SDG 11 and urban development.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today, I'd like to bring your attention to Sustainable Development Goal 11, or SDG 11 for short. It is a crucial global initiative established by the United Nations to create inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities and human settlements by 2030. Urbanization is rapidly changing our world, with super cities surpassing 40 million inhabitants and various other urban formations emerging. As highlighted by William Robert Davis, urban development encompasses the social, cultural, economic, and physical aspects of cities, as well as the underlying causes driving these processes. Robert Muga further emphasizes the emergence of supercities and other urban collections. SDG 11 acknowledges the pressing need to tackle the complex challenges associated with urban development. It aims to promote inclusive cities that offer equal opportunities to all residents, ensuring safety through resilient infrastructure and crime prevention measures. Additionally, it focuses on environmental sustainability by reducing pollution and enhancing resilience to climate change. In conclusion, SDG 11 provides a framework for transforming our cities into vibrant, harmonious communities that meet the ends of present and future generations. Thank you for your attention, and let us all play our part in achieving SDG 11 and building a better world.
Now I would like to talk about green energy and urban development. Firstly, let's define what green urban development is. To quote Jan Gill, an endless number of green buildings does not make a sustainable city. Then what exactly is urban development? Actually, it's the method of planning cities in order to cut waste and emissions, use sustainable construction materials, and minimize the use of energy and water. However, there are a lot of problems that come with this kind of development. Nowadays, due to the increasingly high cost of energy due to conflicts happening in Russia and the Middle East, it has been difficult for countries to maintain green urban development. In particular, developing countries who already have a lot to improve in, like Afghanistan and the Pacific Islands, sustainable urban designs are likely to be the least of their worries, as they're currently being heavily impacted by much worse problems, such as warfare or climate change. Hence, the resources and investment from the government is not enough for them to completely change urban infrastructure. In addition, some metropolitan cities with dense populations, like Shanghai or Mumbai, due to the lack of careful city planning, are not able to fit much parkland or walkways in their city, as this was not something they considered when first designed the cities. City leaders need to emphasize green urban development when they're first thinking of how to structure the city, so that there is enough parkland and space for multiple public transportation routes. Next, here are some of the statistics related to green urban planning. Globally, on average, only 9.8% of urban areas are dedicated to parkland. At least 33% of waste is mismanaged globally through open dumping or burning, and its numbers actually tripled in the US, with 90% of solid waste going to landfills. Cities consume 78% of the world's energies and produces more than 60% of greenhouse gas emissions. Now I'll introduce you 4 examples of cases. 2 of good green urban developments, and the other 2 have some improvements to make. Our first example is Singapore, one of the most developed and eco-friendly cities in Asia. They have 2 types of public transportation, bus and railways, and making them rank first in the world according to McKinsey's Urban Transportation Report. Hence, private transportation is used less due to the limited land space on the island country. As for its park areas, Singapore has many parks of various sizes throughout the city, notably the Singapore Botanic Garden and Gardens by the Bay. This garden is mini Central Park consisting of several hundred acres of cultivated parkland in downtown Singapore, been called one of the world's most spectacular urban developments with numerous flower plant species from around the world. Additionally, city leaders are planning to evolve other copious areas into therapeutic gardens for the elderly, part of the country's 2030 Green Plan. Our second good example is Berlin, Germany. With many open spaces and city parks, this city is perfect for those wanting to take endless strolls around the vintage architecture that it displays, with the total parkland area adding up to nearly 8,000 acres of parkland. It also offers several public transportation choices for residents and visitors, including trains, subways, bus, and trams, making it come in ninth in Statista's public transport ranking list. And finally, the city has some of the lowest rates of per capita water usage in Europe, with involvement in the sustainable management of its water basins and implementing eco-services to ensure water replenishment. Now, our first not-so-good example is, shockingly, New York City in the United States. Despite a high recycling percentage, the Big Apple failed to meet the most basic standard, which is producing less waste. According to the Grow New York City, in 2019, its residents produced 12,000 tons of water every day, which is often piped to nearby landfills. As for solid waste, it produced 33 million tons of waste a year, which is twice as much garbage as any other city on Earth. Furthermore, the city is facing a big air pollution issue in the past few weeks, with over 22.5 million residents in its metropolitan area exposed to unhealthy air. The city ranks 14th for cities with the most ozone pollution in the United States. Our second negative example is Mexico City, the capital of Mexico. Although recycling initiatives have been launched, the city still largely relies on private waste management, with only 10% of the city's waste being recycled. Additionally, the city is a significant contributor in Mexico's greenhouse emission chart, with 60 million tons of carbon dioxide released per year, and closely follows New York City in second place. These two cities are some of the biggest in their country and region, with developed public transport and a lot of parkland for New York City. Yet they aren't able to manage waste properly, hence forcing their citizens' health to be significantly damaged. In the end, you can see that although green urban development has become much more common and much more developed, not all of its intended goals are being maintained, showing some improvements to be made. Next, Alina will introduce some of the social implications of urban development, specifically inequality between the rich and the poor.
Thank you, Mai. Now, I shall be talking about the second aspect of urban development that needs to be highlighted, which is the topic of the social implications of urban development. Part of the goals carried by the application of urban development in country societies involves the eradication of poverty as much as possible. For many years, the processes of urbanization have been designed to provide comfortable and safe homes and cities for people to live and thrive in. However, even if there is the initiative for urban development to become one of the sure ways to lift people up in terms of their state of living, modes of urbanization in many nations may still be lacking in terms of their balanced and equal accessibility to all social classes. In relation to this, there is the underlying fact that the countries who majorly need to be urbanized are those who do not have the opportunity to do so because of their inaccessibility to the necessary resources. Although more than half of the world is already undergoing urban development, can we really say that the urbanization of the world is absolutely progressing as well as we envision it to be? So to dive more deeper into this, let's dive into the statistics of urban development. So according to the statistics, 55% of the world is urbanized. Is that a good thing? Well, maybe. Looking at it on a surface level perspective, we can deduce that urban development is prominent in more than half of the world. However, looking beyond what we can comprehend from numbers and percentages, is it still really an absolutely good thing? There is still more and more room for countries to improve their urban development processes in order to provide for all people, whether rich or poor, the most efficient and sustainable homes and cities. Additionally, 1 out of 4 people in urban dwellers in many countries, which is approximately 1 billion people, are still living in slums. Now, let's also dive into the good application of urban development and those countries that may also need improvement. For the good application of urban development, we have 2 countries. First is Switzerland. The degree of urbanization in Switzerland from the years 2011 to 2021 is from 73.63% to around 74%. Although there's no drastic change over the years, we can still say that urbanization in Switzerland is still going as high as possible to accommodate really a lot of people in urban areas and cities. And additionally, 8.5% 8.5% of the people in Switzerland, which is around 772,000 citizens, live in poverty in 2020, compared to the percentage rate of urbanization. That is very little compared to that. So we can really say that Switzerland is doing a pretty well job in order to make sure that a lot of areas are being urbanized well to accommodate a lot of people. Now we have Netherlands. The degree of urbanization in the Netherlands from years 2011 to 2021 is from 87.88% to 92.57%. We can really see a significant change in the duration of those years in how Netherlands has been able to urbanize their areas. The Netherlands is also known for its innovative approaches to urban development and has been successful in implementing multiple initiatives focusing on the needs of the people. Now let's go to the countries who may need a bit more improvement in their urbanization. First, we have the Philippines. The degree of urbanization in the Philippines from the years of 2011 to 2021, that's about 10 years, is from 45.52% to 47.68%. In those duration of the years, although there's no significant change, just like in Switzerland, Philippines is still kind of a long way to really being urbanized. The degree of urbanization as seen here in the statistics is less than half. So the country has a long way to go for it to really be urbanized efficiently and sufficiently for the people. Additionally, about 4.5 million people in the country are homeless or living in informal settlements. Additional to this, the Philippines is also considered as one of the most disaster-prone countries in Asia. The country experiences an average of 20 typhoons per year. The after effects of such disasters greatly affect families and households who belong in homes in areas that aren't well protected and taken care of. Hence, since majority of the areas in the Philippines are filled with those informal settlers or people who live in slums, there is a need to really be more innovative and to really improve the urbanization in the country. Finally, another country that would somehow need improvement in their urbanization as well is Africa. The degree of urbanization in Africa from years 2011 to 2021 is 36.54% to 41.83%. So we can see a change in those percentage rates. However, just like in the Philippines, it is still majorly less than half of the country that is still urbanized. And additionally, adding the poverty rates of African countries, getting the total of all poverty rates, approximately 60.7% of Africa lives in poverty. So if we are going to compare the percentage rates of poverty and urbanization, we can really see that in the entirety of Africa, majority of Africa is still living in poverty. So there's a really need for African countries to somehow be more sufficient, efficient, and resilient in establishing urbanization in their countries. Now, as we move on to the innovative solutions and action plans, I would now first like to call on Judy.
Okay, thank you very much, Alina, for your informative sharing. And now I'll be talking about some of the green initiatives that we could adopt in urban planning. First, let's dive deeper into our first recommendation, which is mainly about the urban parks and gardens. By increasing the number and the size of these green spaces, we can create a vibrant and interactive environment that offer the urban citizens accessible area for recreation, for relaxation, and community engagement. And before you is the picture featuring a majestic lion. So do you recognize what country is that? It's Singapore. So Singapore is kind of popular in its innovative approach to urban planning and the transformation of the city into a captivating garden city, which is the nickname of Singapore. So that's why we decided to choose Singapore as the prime example of the initiative of urban parks and gardens. And these green spaces not only provide respite from the bustling city, but also foster a sense
of community and connection with nature. Our next recommendation is to encourage the installation of green roof and walls on the buildings to maximize the green space, and especially in those areas who have the dense urban area. And the installation provides substantial advantages, including helping us to regulate building temperatures as well as reducing the energy consumption. Green roof and walls provide refreshing oases and create more comfortable microclimate for the citizen in the urban area to enjoy. Right here, we have the picture right next to this section to illustrate what we mean. Can you take a guess at what location it is? The flag says it all. It's Vancouver, Canada. And this place is called the Vancouver Convention Center. And as you can see, there are greenery on top of the center, and which not only benefits the overall environment of the place, but the structure of green roof enhance the aesthetic building appeal of the building. And next, we always support with the widespread adoption of renewable energy sources. For example, the solar panel, the wind energy, the geothermal system, and many more. So by embracing these sustainable alternatives, we can shake off the reliance and dependence on fossil fuels, the gas or like the oil, as well as decreasing our carbon footprint and promote a healthier environment. Next, one of the most fascinating recommendations on our list, which is the vertical farming. So basically, vertical farming allows the people to integrate food production in our urban landscapes, utilizing the techniques. For example, we have the hydroponics and the aquaponics to grow crops in a vertical stack layers. And right here, we have a real-life snapshot of the vertical farming that I personally took last year from a garden that used the vertical farming on top of a building. So this innovative approach showcased how we can utilize the vertical spaces and cultivate a thriving agricultural ecosystem. Next, which is about the education and awareness. So it's really should be highlighted that the benefit of the green spaces as well as greeneries in developing the urban area, as well as encourage the residents to participate in the sustainable practices. And finally, the team believes that every community is unique with its all needs and preferences. So that's why we're all about bringing all the people together to create the green spaces that truly cater the needs of as many people as possible. So we are talking about the citizen, the community organization, the government organization, and even the experts. So all joining in the blending and the designing process of urban area. It's like a big brainstorming session where everyone ideas and voices and perspective are valued and respected. And now let me introduce Irene from the team who will be presenting on the inequality between the developed and the developing in country in urban development. Thank you.
First of all, thank you so much, Judy, for your valuable, brilliant suggestions. Coming up, we'll explore various solutions and ways to solve issues regarding the implications of urban development. Wait, before I get into the solutions though, I think we need to know what our problems are in the first place, right? Let's do some recap. So to sum up, some countries have indeed benefited from urbanization, which allowed the countries to have more inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable cities and human settlements. In other words, urbanization on a superficial level appeared to perfectly align with the objectives set forth by Sustainable Development Goal 11, which aim to enhance inclusive and sustainable urbanization and capacity for participatory. However, what the majority of the audience tends to miss out on is that many countries that are actually in desperate need of help don't have the access to these new urban developments. For instance, many least developed countries in Africa and even Philippines are suffering from lack of urbanization due to their insufficient economical powers. These led to more and more implications, and somehow this lack of economical leisure led to inequality between the rich and the poor countries. And even the countries that are striving towards urbanization are developing at an extremely slow rate. So at this point, you may ask, hey, so what? So what, Irene? Enough of the problems. What can we possibly do to solve this problem? Well, I believe that we can approach these problems in two different perspectives.
which were from the views of the countries/industries and as us, youth, the younger generation. In order to understand the solutions we came up with, however, I believe that it is essential to understand what certified emission reductions are. So by their definition, certified emissions reductions encourages various nations and companies around the world to restrict and reduce the amount of carbon dioxide by a certain amount. Here, carbon credits come into play, which are basically credits or permits that allow the companies, industries, etc., to emit a certain amount of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases. This means that carbon credits can also be sold back and forth across different industries and even countries by their needs. This brings us to our first approach to the solution, which was about the countries and their industries. When carbon credits are sold back and forth, there are transaction costs. As it could have probably been suggested from the recap, the primary concern regarding the inequality of urbanization of poor and rich countries is the lack of funds/money available to actually carry out their urbanization. Therefore, we suggested that we decrease transaction costs for countries/industries that are willing to donate money to support the urbanization of the countries in need, so as to increase motivation and provide incentives. At this point, you may also ask, but what about us really? Sure, that's an awesome idea, but I'm neither a CEO nor a chief who manages trades between different countries. What can we do as a younger generation living in each of the societies to contribute to this issue? This brings us to my second approach to the solution, which focuses on the approach of youth. How can we as younger generation do to contribute to this issue? Well, I believe that the primary action we can take is to first establish youth NGOs, organizations, etc., that focus on strengthening networks with huge companies, Congress, etc. There, with the help from these partners that we made through these organizations, we can then organize various campaigns to spread the matter involving urbanization and raise funds through various forms of fundraisers. Then, we can use these funds to give back and donate to countries in need of urbanization and help them implement strategies to urbanize and develop their countries to ultimately strive towards achieving SDG 11. Moreover, some of the campaigns in the process could be divided into different categories, which are SNS, teaching each other, and etc. So for example, we can utilize SNS or generally teach each other about the matter to raise awareness of inequality being faced in the various areas of the world and voice our opinions. And as more and more ideas are coming and being created as a young group of brilliant students come together to further campaign this matter, I believe that there are more campaigns to be continued. To conclude, we have explored the impacts of urbanization on the environment and inequality between the rich and the poor countries' degree and progress of urbanization in the presentation. Given the solutions provided and applying them in real world, we can certainly strive towards a better urbanized country with a better environment. Let us therefore all come together to make a difference in the world and work towards achieving SDG 11. Thank you, and remember, to go urban is to understand, and these were some of the resources that we used for the presentation. Once again, thank you everyone, and yeah, this is it.
All right, thank you all for Team 2, introducing the urban development processes and the status quo with adequate evidences and applications as good or bad examples as well. It was full of supporting visuals and it was well structured as well. So now we have reached the conclusion of the SDGs team presentation session. Let us take a moment to appreciate the hard work and gratitude demonstrated by each team throughout their presentations. Their efforts and passion for creating a sustainable future have truly been inspiring. We extend our heartfelt gratitude to all the participants for their exceptional contributions. Now it is time to shift our focus to the upcoming youth exchange event, meticulously prepared by our dedicated staff members. This event promises to be a delightful and interactive session, serving as a closing networking opportunity for all participants. Now let us continue to work together inspire one another, and make a positive impact on the journey towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals SDGs so far. As we conclude this live stream session, we would like to extend our gratitude to our global audience who have joined us virtually through YouTube. Your presence and engagement have added immense value to this event, and we hope that the ideas and initiatives shared here will inspire you as well in your own journeys towards sustainable development. Once again, thank you for the audiences and the students for being part of the Global GLEC